For as long as we've been looking up at the night sky, that little red dot has had this incredible pull on our imagination. But our modern obsession with Mars, the one that's driving our rovers and fueling our dreams of actually going there, well, that story is way, way stranger than you probably imagine.
I mean, just think about that for a second. For decades, the smartest people on Earth, the leading scientists, and pretty much everyone else were convinced that Mars was inhabited. And we're not talking about little green microbes here. We're talking about intelligent, world-building engineers. And the craziest part, this whole global obsession, this planetary scale misunderstanding, it didn't come from some amazing new discovery. It was all sparked by a simple and, as it turns out, a really consequential mistake in translation. So yeah, let's dive in. Our modern obsession with Mars really doesn't start with a fact. It starts with this grand illusion. It all goes back to 1877, when an Italian astronomer, Giovanni Schiaparelli, was looking through his telescope and saw this network of strange straight lines on the Martian surface. And this idea, it just took off, thanks to this one guy, an American astronomer named Percival Lowell. He was so convinced that he built his own private observatory just to map these things. He created this incredible, romantic, and tragic story of a brilliant, dying civilization desperately building a planet-wide irrigation system to bring water from the poles to their dying cities. It was a story the entire world just fell in love with. Okay, so it literally all came down to a single word. Schiaparelli, who was Italian, called the lines he saw canali. Now, in Italian, canali can just mean natural channels, like a riverbed. But when it got translated into English, it became canals. And you gotta remember, this was right after we just built the Suez Canal. So when people heard canals on Mars, they weren't thinking rivers, they were thinking engineering. That one little word choice fueled a worldwide belief in Martian architects.
So, okay, obviously the canals weren't real. They were just an optical illusion. But as we started to figure out what Mars was really like, we stumbled onto this huge paradox. The single biggest clue we have about the planet's ancient, watery, blue past is the fact that it's red right now. I mean, think about it. Why is it the red planet? It's red because it's literally covered in rust. And what do you need for rust on that scale? Iron, oxygen, and water. Lots and lots of water for a very long time. That iconic red color isn't just decoration. It's a chemical fossil, the leftover evidence of a world that was once blue.
All right, so that takes us into the modern era, the age of the robots. Now that we knew the canals were a myth, we could send our robotic detectives to solve the real mystery. What happened to all that water?
And look, this wasn't just us throwing robots at the planet hoping to find something. It was a super logical detective story, step by step. After the Viking landers got some really confusing results about life back in the 70s, we took a step back. The MER rovers, Spirit and Opportunity, asked a simpler question. Okay, was there ever water here at all? The answer? A definitive yes. So then, Curiosity came along and asked, all right, was that water a place where life could have survived? The answer? Yep. And that leads us straight to today's rover, Perseverance, asking the biggest question of all. Are there any signs of that ancient life still preserved in the rocks? Okay, that brings us right up to today. And 2025 has been an absolutely wild year for the search for life, defined by two huge and kind of conflicting storylines. So on the one hand, you've got the Perseverance rover, and it hits a potential jackpot. It found organic molecules right next to the kinds of minerals that are often left behind by microbial life. That's a huge deal. But then, at the very same time, we get this news about the Curiosity rover. For years, it's been detecting mysterious puffs of methane gas, a possible sign of current life. Well, a new theory suggests it all might just be our own fault. A tiny leak of air from Earth that got trapped inside the rover before it even launched. A real gut punch. And get this, the story isn't just about ancient water anymore. We now have solid, definitive proof of liquid water on Mars right now. Now, it's not flowing in rivers on the surface, but it's there, locked away. We're talking vast reservoirs soaking the rock deep in the crust, and salty lakes of liquid water detected by radar hidden underneath the South Polar ice cap. Mars is not a dead, dry world. Not at all. So, with all these incredible discoveries piling up, humanity is gearing up for the next giant leap. But the closer we get, the more we realize there's this huge debate brewing about the best way to actually pull it off. So you've got these two big ideas. First, there's NASA's Moon to Mars plan. This is the slow, steady, safety-first approach. Let's use the moon, which is right next door, as our training ground. Figure everything out there before we commit to the long, dangerous trip to Mars. And then you have SpaceX. Totally different mindset. They're not just about exploration, they're about colonization. Their goal is to get there fast, build a city, and make humanity a multi-planetary species. It's a much more aggressive, go-for-it approach.
And you can see on this timeline, things are really heating up. This is a new space race for sure, and it's not just NASA versus SpaceX anymore. You've got China's National Space Agency in the mix, and they're aiming to bring Martian rocks back to Earth before NASA does. Meanwhile, SpaceX wants to land an uncrewed Starship as early as 2026, and maybe even a crewed one by 2029. The race is well and truly on. But actually getting there? It's an unbelievably hard problem. We're talking about a 3-year trip where your bones literally start to dissolve, and your cancer risk skyrockets from radiation. And then there's the mental side. Being that isolated, that far from home, with a communication delay so long you can't even have a normal conversation with Earth, it's a huge psychological test. Oh, and we still haven't figured out how to land a 100-ton spaceship on a planet with an atmosphere that thin, a challenge we frankly haven't cracked yet. So here's the thing. We can't possibly pack everything we need for a multi-year stay. It's just too heavy. The solution is something called ISRU. Basically, it means living off the land, using Martian resources to make our own oxygen, water, and even rocket fuel. And for years, this was just a cool idea on a whiteboard. But then, a little experiment on the Perseverance rover about the size of a toaster, called MOXIE, it actually did it. It sucked in the thin Martian air and pumped out pure oxygen. It proved the whole concept is possible. Okay, so this brings us to the final and honestly the most important part of this whole story. All of these discoveries, the hints of ancient life, the confirmation of present-day water, they have forced us to face a massive choice. A choice we have to make, like right now. And here's the choice laid out plain and simple. Is Mars a museum, or is it a new world? Do we treat it like a pristine cosmic museum, a place we study from a distance, following strict rules to make sure we don't contaminate it, so we have a chance to find and study any life that might be there? Or is it a new world, a frontier for us to settle and colonize, which, let's be honest, means massive, permanent contamination that would almost certainly wipe out any native life we might find? You see, with Perseverance finding these potential biosignatures, this isn't some sci-fi debate for the future anymore. It's happening now. It leaves us with the ultimate question. If we find life on Mars, even if it's just microbes, should we still go? Do we still have the right? And whatever we decide, it's going to define our future, not just on Mars, but everywhere else we go in the cosmos.